As we are all aware, because we all checked out the ZTL event guide for the Doggo event, we're going to be getting a Hokusai banner not too long from now, although I wouldn't put it past Lasengo to throw a bonus banner out here. Maybe they throw Bargast on there to try to entice some people to go and summon before Anniversary and Summer comes out, but I'm assuming most people are going to refrain from summoning because it is literally right around the corner. It's this event, comma coming back for Oku, and then that's pretty much it. But for the odd person that does want to go ahead and summon for Hokusai, I thought I might as well go ahead and do some type of servant evaluation as someone that has been using Hokusai for a fat minute over here on the NA side of things. And she's a very strange servant that I have thoughts about because I think she's been aging kind of fine, but definitely needs a buff or two, especially in regards to either damage or looping potential. Because while both of those are kind of fine, they definitely leave things much to be desired, if you know what I'm saying. So, as per usual, if you enjoy the daily FGO content, make sure you drop a like in the video, subscribe to the channel, but let's start diving into this, because Hokusai is one of those servants that I think is quite interesting. If you do not know what her main gimmick is, you just saw her art, or you're a big fan of the Cthulhu mythos, and you're like, I gotta go and summon for this, without really knowing what she does, her gimmick revolves around her third skill and her power mod against Man Attribute. And say it with me, Man Attribute, if you've ever used Morgan, is quite good. There is not only a decent amount of servants on there, but also quite a few enemies that you will run into on free quest nodes. And then there's her third skill, which the whole gimmick is whenever Hokusai attacks with her arts cards, she hits the enemy with a 20% defense down. Now, the reason this is kind of interesting is that usually when you're going into, say, a challenge quest or something, you do want to use your arts cards following your NP, because once you use your NP, it's a pretty surefire way to get it back by using your arts cards. And her arts cards, I guess, are decent enough, 6 hits a pop, but with only 0.33% NP gain, it can make her NP a little bit more on the iffy side as far as refunding is going, but thankfully Castoria is really broken, so usually you can get across the finish line, especially if you're packing an Oberon or something. But it's weird because you really want to ideally put the arts cards in front of her NP, so she'll be able to do more damage on the NP, because you're going to be lowering that defense by 20 to 40%, depending on if you have 1 or 2 arts cards. But then that does make her refund a little bit weird. It makes it a bit strange, because generally Hokusai is going to get in that 70 to 80% range in my findings for, depending on servant class type. Obviously mine is NP1, so she doesn't get as much overkill and stuff back, but that's generally where she's sitting, and getting her arts card or 2 after her NP can be really nice in securing a follow-up NP. Now, you can kind of balance this out by saying, well, if I have an arts chain, I can sacrifice one of the arts cards in front of the NP, get that bonus damage, and then still probably get back to 100% for a follow-up NP, which is nice, but it is a little bit weird. Now, if you're going to use her for free quest farming, first of all, there are better options out there. You do not have to use Hokusai. She is probably the definition of passable when it comes to looping, but that does mean she can get across the finish line. Again, though, it does kind of like Morgan, where they both share the manpower mod, and they're both really going to be wanting to get that manpower mod if you want to use them for free quest farming. Have you tried to use an NP1 Morgan with no power mods? It can be a little bit rough, let me tell you. But if you can get that manpower mod, you'll see in one of the farming things I have in the background, her damage can be pretty decent going in there, although against some of the non-manpower mod enemies like that giant Orochi, she can still miss out on some KOs, and that's even with plug suiting an Oberon first to try to give her that extra NP damage. So again, that's also why in free quest farming, you really want to find those arts cards, and I was really devastated on the run that we did, that we found them on the first node, because ideally you want them on your last node so you can pop them on the big main enemy to guarantee that you're going to be getting that kill on them. So suffice to say, she's very fun to use, and after they buffed her third skill, it's kind of nice because you're almost guaranteed to be getting crits on your arts cards, which is very important with their very, very high hits and her low NP gain. You want to take advantage of those massive hit counts to be guaranteeing that you're going to be finding your NP. Now, I haven't really talked about her other skills. They're both fine. Like, I don't think they're bad skills or anything. I mean, 30% arts buff, 100% buff removal resistance, and 100% debuff resistance for a turn. That's fine. Like, that's pretty good. Although, honestly, might be getting a little bit more on the dated side, since most servants nowadays are either getting like a 40% arts buff, or they have a way between like a skill and their NP, or a skill 1 and skill 3 in, say, Ryoma Lancer's case, to somehow get to a 50% arts mana burst, which I think she would really benefit from for that extra NP gain, and it would give her a little bit of extra damage. I think if they wanted to buff her NP in the future, maybe give it anywhere from like a 20% arts buff for 3 turns could really do a world of wonders for this woman. And then maybe if you also wanted to maybe, I don't know, let it bomb 20, 30 stars like some of the other servants, I think that could really help out her third skill. And then, I mean, her first skill is just solid. I mean, this is still aging quite well. It's an evasion for CQs if you want to take advantage of her in there. And then it's also a 30% battery if you want to use her for farming. And usually, again, with an NP1 Hokusai hitting anywhere from 60 to 80% refund, usually it's going to be fine. Now, the 60% when you're getting to that lower end of the spectrum is usually against Berserkers, which is unfortunate because she's super effective against them as a foreigner, so that can also make things a little bit awkward. But I don't know, maybe in the future they could give her some kind of specific skill that if it's not just straight up NP gain, it could just be NP gain up versus Berserkers. I don't really think we have a skill buff like that, and I think that really could help her out. But mainly, I really advise you do not summon on the upcoming Hokusai banner. She's fun to use, but if you've got, say, a Waver, a Tamamo, a Castoria, a Nero Bride, you can kind of use a Friends and test her out yourself. I would say you could do it on the Advanced Quest, but for some reason they do not let us bring friends to them, even after clearing them once. I think it would be a really good way to test out other units that you don't have, or at least let us test out the event-specific ones, like, say, Jean for the Giles one, or Saber Faces for the Lancelot one. That could be kind of cool as well, but while it's not an ideal way to test out a servant, if you have Nero Bride and Castoria, which I know is not everybody, you can get a pretty decent showing for how she'll be able to loop. And then one of the things that I really like about the Bleached Earth missions that we're going to be getting next year is that they're really nice for just giant punching bags to test out some of these units. You know, it's like playing Smash Melee, you know, when you go to those punching bag events to practice all your combos and whatnot. It's just kind of like that to kind of see, oh, here's all the variables of damage. Here's the damage with all of my buffs against a Berserker that I don't have power mod against, or maybe I do, and I can really test out all the different variables, see what their damage is going to be kind of ranging like, test her out in something like that, because I like Hokusai as much as the next guy, but the kit is a little dated for you to be summoning on right before Anniversary and Summer. I mean, if you want an Arts Looper, just wait for Ibuki right around the corner, man. I do think it's possible that they could chuck Bargus and a couple of other of the event servants onto a raid up, and they might use that to try to tempt people to summon, which I guess at that point, you know, I know Bargus is immensely popular. But unless you're a huge fan of Cthulhu or the Hokusai wave painting, you can definitely skip out on this one. Not that I think that she's turbo doo-doo butter or anything. I think she's more average about now. Again, she has a lot of good pieces to help her age a little gracefully, but I would really appreciate them chucking a buff her way to more specifically help out with her damage and NP gain a little bit. I think the NP buff that I suggested is rather fair and could help her out a decent bit. But until they give her that, I would advise not summoning on the Hokusai raid up. But if you are going to be summoning, let me know in the comments down below when that does come back. Circle back to the video, let me know that you went ahead and got her, because hopefully this video serves as a catalyst. And for my other viewers, I guess I'll catch you guys in the next one. Peace late, guys.